It's a little bit of a different video today, which is, I think, a good thing to keep things interesting. We had a question from a viewer about hand health. And being that I'm not really qualified to talk much beyond like stretching, I wanted to offer something to this viewer and to others that might be interested in ways to maintain our hand health. So today we've got a very special sort of episode of Happy Days, where we're talking to Jason Heath, who I'm sure you all know, and also Dr. Randall Kertz, who is a practicing physician, chiropractor, and also a bass player. And so we're going to have a discussion today about having some activities towards keeping our hands healthy. I hope that you get something from it and enjoy it. Let's go take a listen. So welcome to Learn Jazz Bass with Matt Rubicki. And as I said in the intro a little bit before you all came on, I'm so happy to welcome Dr. Randall Kertz and of course, Jason Heath to a discussion about hand health today. And I didn't feel qualified outside of talking about some stretching to answer a viewer's question regarding hand health and things that we can do to keep ourselves in best playing shape. Just so I can sort of reiterate the bona fide, so to speak, Dr. Kertz, you are a bassist, which is amazing. And I heard a little bit of your music and it's great. Yeah, absolutely. And you are also a practicing chiropractor and acupuncturist, if I'm not mistaken, for 25 years or so. I think that's right.
Yes, correct. Exactly right.
Amazing. And you practice in Illinois and Arizona, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, currently in Arizona, but I'm licensed in Illinois, and that's where I had my office for about 22, 23 years.
And I was introduced to Dr. Kertz from Jason, who, if you all don't know who he is and have been living under a rock, Jason, you are the gold standard for YouTube stuff, man. If y'all don't know, Double Bass HQ, truly amazing site and YouTube channel, Contra Bass Conversations podcast, and your two books are Winning the Audition and Road Warrior. What is it, Jason?
Well, you have done your research, my friend. Road Warrior Without an Expense Account. We're going back to some deep cuts there. That's great.
Yes, man. And of course, Jason is an amazing educator, as you all know, and a fantastic player with symphonies all over the place. And gosh, so much on your plate. Thank you for making time to talk with us today, both of you. And I know, Dr. Kertz, you also have a book that I just bought and checked out, and it's amazing. The Bassist Guide to Injury Management, Prevention, and Better Health. And you certainly are the perfect person to answer some of these questions. So thanks again for joining us. So let me just jump right in, if you don't mind, to this question, and we'll just go where that goes from there. So this gentleman says, I'm an amateur player in my late 60s, recently retired, and looking forward to spending more time playing and practicing and getting better. About 20 years ago, I developed a strain in my left elbow, which turned out to be tennis elbow. With my day job, I fell into this weekend warrior mentality where I would play hard at gigs and rehearsals, but not maintain a steady daily practice routine, which may explain the injury. It was painful and not getting better with heat and ice, Motrin, the home treatments go on. I worried I would have to quit playing or move to the electric, not my choice. Sorry, Dr. Hertz. I went on a quest to find a cure,
I was
which
assured
meant
there'd be no snobbery here today.
No, there was no snobbery. No. I'll bring out my electric right now. He said he went on a quest to find a cure, which meant asking every bass player he ran into. He got lots of shoulder shrugs from most, which was an interesting thing to me that nobody gave him any advice. He said seeing a doctor didn't help. More heat and ice, Motrin, etc. Finally, after a couple of years, read a physical therapy article on treating tennis and golfer's elbow with a TheraBand Flex Bar, and he said that did the trick. And he was healthy until recently when it's coming back slightly. He still uses the bar, which helps. And so he also goes on to say he understands why maybe professional bassists don't want to talk about injury, although I don't understand why other people wouldn't want to share their experiences. Personally, I would jump right in and be like, oh yeah, this happened to me, and so on and so forth. Nonetheless, What's your sort of initial feelings about this gentleman? Maybe Dr. Kurtz, you want to say first what comes to mind?
Yeah, sure. I have quite a bit to say about this. First of all, a lot of players are reluctant to talk about injuries just due to the fact they want to hang on to their gig, or they want to avoid being thought of, oh yeah, we could call so and so. Oh yeah, man, he was hurt last time. No, let's go down to so and so. That is lessening a bit from what I see now. There's more of an openness to talk about this stuff and to get it out in the open and to try and find solutions and to try to help one another through this. I also see a lot of people offering well-meaning advice, which is not accurate in a lot of cases. We're not the same. If we all, you, me, and Jason all have the same injury, we are going to respond differently, and because we are all individual different people. Medicine is not modern allopathic, and in general, I won't even say allopathic. A medicine across the board doesn't necessarily understand what an instrumentalist does, and is not in many cases interested, because they have to get through the day, and they have to work according to certain parameters, let's say, which may not mean spending time getting to know you and how you and what you do with your life. That's not always the case. I'm saying generally. Regarding the tennis elbow, first of all, you want to get a proper diagnosis. A lot of bassists experience the opposite, which is golfer's elbow. So to be clear, you want to get the proper diagnosis right off the bat. As a lot of doctors are specializing now, your primary care doctor may or may not be the best person to diagnose you, because everybody specializes. So they send you to some therapy. There's a certain hierarchy, right? Maybe you get some meds, maybe you go to physical therapy. Maybe you get an X-ray if that doesn't work out. There's a certain hierarchy that you must meet, which it is what it is. But I digress. Tennis elbow is going to be on the outside of the elbow. You have your palm up, and golfer's elbow is going to be on the inside. So again, tennis elbow in basis, I generally see if someone's technique is not what it should be, or if they are compensating for something else, muscular tightness in the forearm, in the wrist, or even a golfer's elbow type of situation. And I can talk about treating tennis elbow, or I can go anywhere you want with this. It's interesting to me that the TheraBand worked. I think that that's great. The tendency right now in physical therapy and in a lot of medicine tends to be strengthening, which the TheraBand would somewhat do. And I think TheraBands are great. You want to reduce inflammation as part of this treatment. There's many different ways to go about that. And you don't want to strengthen something when it is inflamed and when it is problematic, because you are strengthening a bad habit. And so it may not improve, it may get worse, or it just may not change at all. Frustrating player and doctor, to which they'll say, oh, well, just stop playing or just take a rest, that kind of thing. So slippery slope. But yeah, I mean, again, I could talk all day about this. But I'm pleased that worked. I think the TheraBand is a good choice. I think one needs to reduce needs to get a proper diagnosis, needs to reduce inflammation, and then examine technique. And make sure they're not doing something that will cause this to continue. For example, let's say I play for an hour and a half, and I just go to it and I just keep going. What is the issue that is causing? First, I'm taking a break, which I should. That always helps out quite a bit. And I didn't get from that whether this was the right or the left extremity either, which also makes a difference. Is it bow?
He said left.
You said left.
He said
Okay.
left. Yeah.
So are you holding your shoulder too high? How is the instrument laying on you? These are all things to be considered, not only in treatment, but in prevention in the future. And over to Jason.
Yeah, well, so much to say on this topic, like Dr. Kertz said, and yeah, treatment and prevention in the future. That's what we're looking about here. And I have spoken for my podcast with so many people that have suffered a performance injury. It's much more common than people think. Dr. Kertz is so right. There is a culture of not wanting to talk about it for so many reasons. I think that's also changing. But what I've learned talking to a lot of people about this is the causes of playing injury can be multifactorial and a bit mysterious, and the path out of it can be multifactorial and a bit mysterious, and so many things play into it. Stress, sleep, like Dr. Kertz was saying, like how you're approaching the bass with your technique, and I remember talking to a bass player named Bernardo Alves, who has had struggled for a couple years with an injury, and it got worse and worse, and he got a diagnosis and it didn't help, and he ended up being out for quite some time, but he worked through it. He found the right medical professional that helped him, and he's back and he's playing, and he has learned what he needs to do to stay not injured. The principal bassist of the Houston Symphony talks about this openly. He had a left hand playing injury, overuse injury in college that was so severe he couldn't use his left arm for almost a year. And the bright side is he got so good at playing with the bow that it really took his playing to the next level. He actually wrote a book recently about bow and like bow usage, and it came from that 1 year. And he is now well over a decade not been able to work through it. But it's just something that happens to so many players, and there are many factors that are at play here, and it's just, yeah, like Dr. Kertz said, getting the right diagnosis and learning how to work through it, and then how to prevent it in the future is just key.
Your story of this gentleman, forgive me, I forgot the name, who you just spoke about with the bow, couldn't use his left arm, makes me think of David Wong. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Dave Wong.
Yes.
He early on, I think he had just graduated or something, but he broke his hand and was out for quite a while. And just like you're saying, once he came back, he was already phenomenal. And then it just became otherworldly when you come back, and you're just so ready and so motivated, like, oh, I can finally play again. I hope that this gentleman, who is, it's certainly not old, at least for us, he's not old, right? 61. I certainly hope that he can. Right. Yeah, he is not an old guy. So I'm hoping that he can find some, some resolution in years to come. Is there anything that I know you speak in your book that I mentioned, The Bassist Guide to Injury Management, Prevention, and Better Health. It's very, very good, by the way. Just parenthetically,
I have one right here.
Hey, look at that. There are sections about you break it down into areas of the body that hurt, and then you sort of explain why it might hurt and what we can do about it. And it's such a great approach as like a how-to, as opposed to just sort of a medical textbook or opining on some stories, like maybe this patient XYZ, you're just like, this is what the problem probably is, and here's some ways you can try to fix it, which is wonderful. For this particular, this is an actual viewer, but this person or another imaginary viewer who is out there, what could we do in that situation where it's sort of a low level injury, so to speak, but we want to prevent that again, and we don't want to incur new problems.
Can you reframe that for me? If
Sure.
somebody feels that a problem is coming on and they want to kind of know what to do about it before it gets to be a big problem, is that right?
Well, what I was thinking was from his perspective. He has this tennis or golfer's elbow. It kind of got better. Now it's sort of coming back. What would you advise, other than what you said already about getting the right treatment and or finding it, getting it properly diagnosed and so on? In other words, thinking ahead, okay, let's say it is resolved, but I don't want it to come back. And I want to keep my hands sort of generally healthy, or I want to prevent any additional problems. Are there broad things, or I should say, can you talk more about your perspective on exercising and strengthening and stretching?
I would examine one's technique top to bottom. Someone like myself can help with that. You can bring your instrument into a favorite skilled therapist who may be able to watch you and say, well, I don't know how to play bass, but I can see you're doing that with your shoulder. Do you really have to do that? Because that would cause this problem to occur, something of that nature. They don't necessarily need to know how to play the instrument, but they need to see what the problem is in order to be able to say, I can see what you're doing. Can you change this part? Oh, yeah, I guess I can. Can you breathe a little? Oh, yeah, I guess I can. To me, again, the go-to with physical therapy in general, and I use that as an example because if you go to a primary care doctor, they may say go see a chiropractor, they may say go see an acupuncturist. They will very likely say go see a physical therapist because that's what they know and that's what they're supposed to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, the physical therapist may have protocols. Okay, do 10 of these, 10 of these, 10 of these. We got to strengthen that. And that may very well be the ticket. But if something is inflamed and problematic, then it will not heal most likely by strengthening because you are either taking a bad habit or a bad problem and making it worse, and you're not allowing it to heal properly before you want to strengthen it. Sometimes it will, certainly. But generally speaking, I like to find out what the problem is first, get it under control. Then we can talk about you can strengthen, you can do these exercises, you can do these, rather than being the means to the end. Okay, this is what's going to take you through and keep you good in future once we have this under control. That's what I think you're asking, and that's what I find success in.
That makes sense. Do either of you, or I would love to hear both of your thoughts about any sort of regular things you do in this area? Do you do any regular, I believe I know, Doctor, you're into yoga, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. But sort of, are you consciously thinking, either of you, like, hey, I really got to take care of my arms and my hands specifically?
Well, let's give it over to Jason for a while, and then I'll chime in based on that. How about that? Based on that?
Yeah, I think about that a lot. The wonderful bass teacher, David Allen Moore, he's in the Los Angeles Philharmonic. He teaches at the University of Southern California. He has a line that I love, which is, bass playing shouldn't be the hardest thing you do all day. And I think bass is an instrument that's kind of uniquely taxing while we're playing it, while we're carrying it. And I have found, and then all those other factors like sleep, stress, that can all factor in. And as I continue to age, I'm realizing I really do need to have some sort of strength training regimen, some sort of cardiovascular. So I go to the gym average of 5 times a week. And one of the things that I found to be the best for bass playing, and I imagine yoga, I know a lot of people have a yoga practice and that helps. I've been doing this primal movements class, which is a lot of core and strengthening. It's a lot of being on all fours, which when I started, I thought, I don't know what this is doing to my hands, but I feel like it has really strengthened everything. And I love seeing the tech workers here in San Francisco come in who spend all day on the laptop, and I see them like really taken aback by how it feels to kind of be in the opposite position. I have found that to be so great for bass playing, and so I think some sort of strength training has been great for me, and some sort of core workout and Pilates, yoga, in my case this primal movements, which is kind of has many of those aspects to it. That's been really helpful. And when I talk to a lot of bass players that have been able to avoid re-injury, like Robin Kesselman, that principal bassist of the Houston Symphony, who couldn't use his left hand for a year, he has a regular exercise practice, and I think that's super duper important. It's been a game changer for me.
That's so fascinating. The primal movement. Is that what it's called?
Yeah. It started in Los Angeles, of course.
Geez, the California thing.
We do it here in San Francisco too, and probably other places.
No, that sounds very. I've never heard of it, so I'm curious. I'm interested. That's great. What about your regular stuff, Doctor?
I think that anything that gets you moving and gives you a certain level of just basic fitness, as Jason alluded to, cardiovascular, you can get up and take a walk every day, and that has such incredible benefits. Yet people, and you can do it anywhere in the world at any time of the day or night, within reason, certainly.
Right.
But something just to give you a general level of fitness, get you out and get you moving around, and then finding something that resonates with you. Yoga may be good for me. Pilates may be good for you. Going to the gym may be good for so-and-so. It is not super important. There are things to keep in mind when training with weights and other things that could cause injury to one if they're not careful, which could affect their playing regimen. But that's part of finding out what works for you and what doesn't. What's interesting to me about the primal motion, is it, Jason?
Primal movements. Yeah.
Primal movement. Okay. I don't know what that is, but from what you explained to me, it makes perfect sense, because if you're on all fours, which is how our ancestors way back when were and how we are constructed to be, it's only through evolution that we're upright and walking around on two legs, which I like, certainly. But when you're on all fours or laying down, you are lessening the effects of gravity on the spine and on the body structure. And so you're able to focus on things in a different way. And I can see what you're describing without endorsing or poo-pooing this particular thing. I can get in the spirit of what you're saying, and it makes sense to me. But to make a long story short, anything that gets you moving and gets the circulation going and allows you to use your muscles a little bit and get your joint position sense, your proprioception, and just kind of allow you to interact with yourself and the world. The sort of awareness of the body and its motions, I think, is a good thing.
I found the most direct and obvious benefits from the actual stretching, hand stretching and arm stretching. And also, interestingly, and I can access it immediately, I have always had issues with my hamstrings being very tight. So if I work on stretching my hamstrings, everything else comes into sort of balance or alignment better. And I notice immediately that I actually play better, or at least my connection to the instrument is better. So that's a direct, one-to-one for me, where it's an immediate benefit, and I'm just like us human beings. Why aren't I doing it all the time, right? Nonetheless, I think that, as you say, finding your thing can be so helpful, and understanding that when we get the results, that in itself sort of builds on the motivation. So just trying, if I can just sort of be encouraging to those that are watching, just try things. Maybe you won't love them, but eventually you will discover something that gives you a feeling of, oh gosh, this made a difference, and you want to stick with it. Yeah. Makes sense. What is there something, if I can sort of change tack for a second, I was wondering, is there any, or how would you advise, and perhaps either of you have some direct experience, if there is a more serious injury or something that requires surgery, outside of like a broken hand, let's say like I have a rotator cuff issue, or I have some issues with my thumb that I possibly might have to have surgery for. I'm going to try physical therapy first. I'm afraid of getting the surgery because not just about not playing, but there's this fear that I won't play as well. And can you speak to that at all? I know I'm being silly, but it would be nice to hear it from a third party.
Well, from my perspective, you want to, and I believe all healthcare professionals' perspectives, including most surgeons, you want surgery to be the last resort. But if it's necessary, it's necessary, and many times it is. And you've done the route, you've done the therapy, you've done the shots, you've done everything. You've gotten a second opinion, you've talked to other healthcare practitioners, or simply this is bad enough where this is what you need to do, and you need to do it right away. The thing about surgery is that usually it's going to accomplish the task, and it's going to get you to where you want to be, which is over this injury and back to playing. The thing that I find is the biggest problem, for instance, with carpal tunnel surgery, it works, but then half of them fail because you go back and you do the same thing over and over again. Or there's the therapy aspect, which is very, very important after surgery. Unfortunately, many times one is not able to get the therapy they want or need, and that may be because insurance doesn't cover it. They don't have the bread to do it on their own, or they just blow it off. Hey, it feels better now, I don't need this. That's wrong, because generally speaking, surgery is going to involve something being cut and something being sewed and fixed and put back together again. Scar tissue forms from that. Scar tissue is going to limit motion and going to affect your playing and things that you do in the future. Also, strengthening in that case is ultimately important, because you, depending on what you just had done, are going to have some loss or lessening of function afterwards. So the strengthening is uber important. Getting in there and getting that scar tissue loosened up and getting the area more supple if you're able to, uber important. So again, you try to resist the surgery unless you're it's a situation where there's no question you need it immediately. But when it's necessary, it's necessary. And so many people and so many players go and have surgery, and they do the therapy afterward, and everything is beautiful. And that's the way it should be. So that whatever it takes to get that therapy and that follow-up done, including the strengthening and the conversely the loosening up of the scar tissue areas. Don't take that for granted. That's super, super important.
Did either of you ever have to have surgery related to playing?
I'm lucky enough to not have had it. I've always said like I've never worked hard enough to get a performance injury. But I know many people, just like Dr. Kertz described, that if you go through the procedure and you do the therapy, it's modern medicine can be amazing. And so I know a lot of people that have come out just fine the other side, with all kinds of surgeries, but certainly performers. So yeah, just sometimes it's necessary. None of us want that, but you got to do what you got to do, and if you do it right, you can continue to have a great long career. Anybody who and going back to just that taboo of not wanting to talk about this, Dr. Kertz and I did this panel discussion 5 years ago, I think it was, at the International Society of Bassists Convention, Bloomington, Indiana, with 3 people that have benefited from Dr. Kertz's help. John Patitucci, Steve Bailey, and Chichi Nwanoku, if I'm remembering right. And to hear, and that I think the session was titled Longevity in the Bassist. So if you ever, to hear these people just talk openly about their just physical struggles with the instrument and how they work through it, I found it super heartening. It's actually up on YouTube. And thanks again. I've thanked you a bunch of times over the years for including me on that, but it's really been a treat to collaborate with Dr. Kertz over the years.
Oh, absolutely.
Amazing.
It's important to, I appreciate Jason's expertise and input, because I get certain perspectives of this, but not a lot of people are calling me for consultations or seeking me out because hey, you know what? Everything feels great. I just want to stay that way. Some do, and that's fantastic. But usually it's, I'm concerned about this. I've been told this. I've got this. So my point is simply that people are going to seek out people like Jason, who's got the double bass HQ and had the contrabass conversations, and is people that are sort of the touchstones for our community. People want to know what to do and how to do it, and that's why I'm here today, and happy that I was invited, because Matt said, "Hey, how are we going to find the best source for this?" Right? If somebody calls me and wants to ask me a particular pedagogical question about Samandal, I'm probably not going to field it.
What got you interested? Were you a musician first, doctor, or did you have interest in medicine first, or was it sort of concurrent?
Yeah, very, very straight up. I've been a musician for a long, long time. I went to Musicians Institute in Los Angeles, which was Bassist Institute, in 1989, which at that time, Musicians at Bassist Institute, there were 2 schools. There was Berkeley, which if you wanted to go and really sort of get into it and learn all this, learn how to be a great player, but Musicians Institute was in Hollywood, and it was cool. And if you wanted to be kind of a rocker and, all that kind of stuff, you went there. But at the time, God, my instructors were Steve Bailey, who I maintain a friendship with today, Jeff Berlin, Putter Smith, Bob Magnuson, Tim Bogert.
Nice.
Gary Willis. I mean, it was an embarrassment of talent there. And so to sort of come to the part that you want to hear about here, many years later, I'm back in Chicago, and I'm going to chiropractic school, and this is probably 10 years after the fact, and I start playing in a band again, and I start getting pain in my hand. And I'm like, well, that sucks. Hey, wait a minute, I know what that is. Okay. And I start like writing down little notes about it and things. And as I started doing that, I'm like, wow, this would be super useful to people. And it'd be useful too. I can call on some of my old buddies. And I called Steve Bailey and I called Putter Smith and I called other people. And Steve Bailey introduced me to Victor Wooten. And this whole thing kind of snowballed, and people were interested in this and what I had to say. And I was able to figure this stuff out, and my notes just turned into this sort of cottage industry, and here we are.
That's amazing. And what a great segue too, in a sense, because you didn't know I was going this direction, which is at the end of your book, you have interview questions that you ask of Steve Bailey and Victor Wooten and John Clayton and so on and so forth. So I wondered if you wouldn't mind, could I ask these questions of you guys and see what you would respond with your same questions? Sure. Great. So let me ask you, so Jason, here's the first question Dr. Kertz asked the others. Are there any specific problems you may experience on a regular basis or that you have experienced as a player? What did or do you do about it?
Yes. And this is something that just crept up in my late 40s now, and that's like just my lower back tensing up, and and I know it's a combination of it's always when I'm subbing with the symphony here in San Francisco, and it's a combination of stress, moving the bass around long days, and that primal movements class. I'll tell you, that has been like the perfect thing for just for whatever reason. I don't understand why, but that seems to like release what needs to be released, get me in touch with my body. And so that I haven't had a bout of that since starting that class. I do that class twice a week.
Yeah, it sounds like the medicine, right? That's the stuff. What about you, doctor? Specific problems on a regular basis?
Not really. Since I started, I was feeling what started all this is I started having pain on the back of my hand, right about there. I think it was on the right side more. And that was because I was resting my forearm in the bass and doing like that, like so many do, the electric bass. And so what happens is you've got a bunch of bones in your hand that tighten up there, and the muscles that attach to them restrict their movement and their repetitive motion, and all that comes together and you have pain there. So what that was I just needed to get those bones moving again properly so I can manipulate those bones or get them manipulated, meaning get them moving properly again, and then learn how to not play in a way that exacerbates that. In my case, it was pretty easy. It was, instead of going like this, just kind of straighten out your arm a little bit on the instrument and don't hang it like that and don't hook your hand, and everything doesn't tend to heighten up. Excuse me.
Oh, I'm not supposed to do that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah. There'll be 50.
I listen to you.
But what I find and what I teach and what I think is the key to all of this is awareness. And that again was when I learned that this was a problem for me, or when I feel anything in my body starting to act up, I stop and I sort of, you don't have to know the anatomy. You don't have to be a healthcare professional. You just have to know, wow, I got some pain here. I wonder why that is. And then go about the process of finding that out, what that might be, whether it's, hey, I raise my arm really high when I'm playing, or going to see somebody about it, whether it's a massage therapist or a primary care doctor or what have you. Find out what that might be. And if you're not sure, that's why I wrote that book. And that's why I do consultations and things of that nature. And I always tell people too, if you're going to see a healthcare professional about a particular issue, bring your instrument. And I know it's easy to say, rolling in with a double bass. Some people may not like that. But I also say, call the office, tell them you're bringing it in. And if they don't want any part of it, maybe they're not the right person for you to see and build a relationship with and trust to know what's happening. So awareness is all, but you got to find out what's happening first. That's why I talk about just kind of loosening up, learning how to breathe, learning how to kind of drop your shoulders, learning how to relax so that you can be aware of these things, and then pinpoint, not just, oh man, I heard all over. No, I heard here, and that's because voila.
Aha, makes sense. Makes sense. And being aware leads to the next question from your questions. Like, are there specific studio or touring or road tips that you have to sort of prevent, a problem that what can we be aware of while we're traveling to keep us safe?
Everybody's got different experiences, right? Many musicians, especially the ones playing the studios, will tell you beware of hanging out by the air conditioner, or beware of playing on a session. Let's say I've got a session that's going to last 3 hours. Okay, I'm sitting in a chair, or I may be standing, or whatever the case may be. But if I am, after about 40 minutes or so, whether I'm playing or just playing intermittently, if I'm just sort of leaning on that instrument, waiting for somebody to finish their part, that doesn't help. Take a break. Put the instrument down until you need it. If you have to have the instrument on or be prepared, there's certainly going to be 30 seconds where you don't have to play at some point. At that point, just kind of drop your arms to your side, shake them out, drop your shoulders. Don't lean on that instrument or be in the ready position all the time when you don't have to. Get a little break happening there. That's the awareness part. And the rest of it is simply things about trying to get a good meal, trying to get rest, having a good pillow in your bunk. Things like this that can make all the difference. If I'm like this all the time, from no pillow or jacked up pillows or whatever, I'm going to have some problems here, just in general. So there's all kinds of things that some of it is practical, and some of it you just need to remind it, hey, loosen up, man. That kind of thing. So it depends on one's circumstances, certainly.
Gotcha. That's so. I love the specifics of some of what you said there, the pillow and so on. That's really great. Thank you so much. What about you, Jason? Any specific tips you can think of?
Yeah, I'm lucky in that I haven't really done a whole lot of that tour bus life, but I have a lot of colleagues that have. I was just chatting with Daniel Kimbrough, who plays bass with Jerry Douglas, and he's been touring all over the place. I saw him here in San Francisco, and he was saying that when he got to San Francisco, the first thing he did was get off of that bus and just take a walk. And that's what he tries to do, is just, there are so many things not in your control. Maybe you're going to have a bumpy road that you're trying to sleep on that night, and so you might not have the best sleep. You're eating restaurant food no matter what you do. Maybe it's not the optimal diet, but you can just get out and move around, and that's something that he does. That's something that I try to do if I'm flying. I flew to Australia a few years ago, and I made sure I just got out and walked around Melbourne for a while, and that was just trying to get a little. Doesn't have to be anything crazy, but just get some physical motion, move around, get some fresh air, maybe some sunshine, and that can really help a lot when you're cooped up.
Yeah, and I found that trying to think ahead about finding. Generally, we stay in hotels, trying to find the gym situation, and kind of making a priority to get there if you can't, and go for a walk if you can. But of course, sometimes time is really, really tight. But if time allows, if you can get into that hotel gym, as imperfect as some of them may be, I found that it will lift your mood. As you both know, it lifts your mood. It keeps you healthier, and will, I think, prepare your body for the playing to come of that day or that night or whatever. I know some guys were really into, and I wish I had adopted it then, drinking a lot of water, like maybe an unhealthy amount, I don't know, but really making sure to stay hydrated, but trying to keep the nutrition on point is helpful too, I think. Well, I certainly don't want to take too much of your guys' time. I mean, it's certainly flown by for me that it's been an hour, but before I sort of, remind everybody to go follow you and buy your stuff. Did you want to add anything else to this sort of topic?
I'll just kind of cap it off by saying that you need to get a good diagnosis, and then when you get the treatment, you get the situation under control, find out what it is that might be causing that. For my own, speaking for myself, I have tools that enable you to do that. My book, The Bassist Guide to Injury Management, Prevention, and Health. There's two separate volumes available, and this new one, which is the complete one, which Jason was so gracious to provide me with an interview with. If you have the other two volumes, this one's got about 20 plus pages of new material, including interviews with Jason, Gary Carr, and a couple of others, and some new analysis, playing analysis. I do consultations. So if you want to know if your playing is together from an injury prevention standpoint, or you feel something coming up that doesn't feel quite right, or you want a second opinion, rarely do these consultations go in multiples. Generally, you come to me with your issue, we talk about it, we figure it out. So I would encourage someone to do that. The books are on Amazon. My website is drkertz.com. But it's all about awareness. Once you get to where you want to be and need to be, you want to stay there. And if you're able to feel a disturbance in the force, then you're able to deal with it adequately. And don't be so hard on yourself. That's what I got.
And forgive me, I thought I had the full version, but I don't. So I have to get this second volume, because I didn't know that you interviewed Jason in the book.
The complete. So the first one,
Gotcha.
the first one is the sort of the classic. Volume 2 is the additional one, and this one is the complete guide that my publisher, Baseline Publishing, put together, which is everything in both volumes, and then about, again, 20 plus pages of new material, as we talked about those new interviews. And for all you Jason Heath groupies out there, this is the one, the complete guide. And I'm sure you,
Hey.
and I know you are legion.
Yes. Oh man, thank you so much, Doctor. Jason, so did I ask you the same questions that he asked you? I'm sorry. Did you answer those questions I asked you in the book?
Yes. I did.
Sorry.
Well, I'm just thrilled that you thought of me for this. If I get a medical related question for the last 7 years, I think, I just point them to Dr. Kertz, and I've been so fortunate to, he pulled me in to help out, I think, at the 2017 ISB convention with some bass demos, and then we were on that panel discussion together with John and Chi-Chi and Steve, and I've enjoyed all the collaborations and more to come. And Matt, I just love the work you're doing. My business partner, Trevor Jones, reached out, whatever it was, within the last year, and was like, this guy is awesome. And I started watching your videos, and I'm like, he is. And so it's been so great.
Thank you.
After we finish chatting today, I'm going to dig in and continue practicing this amazing Ray Brown transcriptions. It has been super fun. I'm channeling my inner Ray Brown, and I just appreciate the work that both of you are doing.
Well, same for me. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to. I'm sorry to cut in there, but free resource. I do videos for the ISB. I've done probably maybe 60, 70 or more videos for them, which is available on their archive site. And a free resource to everybody is my YouTube channel, which is DRKERTZ TV. You can subscribe there, and there's hundreds of videos on there based on the topic that we've talked about, including ISB videos, including videos I've done for Bass Musician and for other places over the years. They're all kind of collected there. So, and you can pretty much look on there. Oh, I've got hand paint. Dr. Kertz talks about hand paint, that kind of thing. So I wanted to make that available to everyone too. Sorry to cut you off.
Thank
Jason.
you.
Well, I'll jump in there. Small world. I was the person for a few years at doing just a little edit and posting those online for ISBs. So and titling that, and so although yeah, so I have enjoyed those videos over the years, and they always have pearls of wisdom.
Jason's
I did not know about it.
friend to me and to the base, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Jason, yes, you know that, but now you know, Dr. Kertz, I appreciate you. And thankfully, because of what we can do with these magic rectangles, I can link everything that we talked about in the description below. So I will for sure make sure that folks see you. And Jason, what can I say? Of course, I'm always trying to put people onto you that wouldn't know. But who doesn't know about Jason Heath? Come on. You know?
Well, I appreciate it. It's fun, and both the work that both of you are doing is great. And let's do more of these.
Yeah, great to spend time with you, gentlemen. Thank you for thinking of me and including me. It's a gas. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Kertz, Jason Heath. We'll talk to you later. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.